There comes a point where you stop asking, why do we keep ending up tired at the end of every project? And you start asking something sharper. You start asking, what if the problem is not the talent, not the taste, not the client? What if the problem is the way work is shaped? Because after a while, if the same stress keeps showing up, if the same delays keep creeping in, if the same conversations keep circling in your calendar and your group chat, you have to be honest about what you are looking at. Maybe it is not a people need to try harder problem. Maybe it is a design problem inside the business itself. Welcome to The Real Place. I'm Milton Flournoy. And today I want to walk you through a real project in the interior design studio, what I call the Fairburn project, and talk about how a single contract can become a map, a flow of risk, and of how much weight a designer is secretly carrying. What was true before for a long time, I think a lot of creative businesses, especially solo studios, solopreneurs, they're trained to survive the chaos. You learn how to adapt, how to improvise, how to just make it happen. You learn how to run a full-scale project out of your head. Approvals in text threads, measurements in your camera roll, vendor details buried in an email. Somewhere between coupon code and a shipping update, and sometimes that is what keeps the doors open. Sometimes you really do have to figure it out on the fly. Sometimes you really do have to fill in the gaps. Sometimes the work is moving so fast that you do not feel like you have the luxury of a real process. I have seen that in interior design close up. I help my fiance run her design firm. I see what happens when the beauty is organized, but the business sometimes is not. You can have a gorgeous mood board and still have a messy system. You can have a brilliant eye and still be bleeding hours in the background, chasing approvals, re-explaining scope, holding anxiety that never makes it into the invoice. And that kind of work wears on you. Because when a system is too vague, people do not just do the work. They carry the fog around it. They carry the questions. Did the client ever approve that layout? Are we still on the original timeline? Or did that slip? Who is paying for the next extra trip and this extra install day? They carry the backtracking, the second guessing, the quiet irritation of knowing you did everything you could and still ended up in the same place. Stress cycle. If you stay in that too long, you start to believe that confusion is part of the job, that messy is normal, that good enough is the best a small studio or solopreneur can hope for. But I do not believe any of that. Enter the Fairburn Project. A different kind of contract. The Fairburn Project is a real job, a home, a fully functional and styled sunroom. Furniture to source, a reveal to deliver. From the outside, it looks like a standard design engagement. On paper, this is different. On paper, the contract does not just say, we will make it pretty. It says, here is what is included and here is what is not. Here is what we will assemble. Here is what requires a license, trades, what the designer owns, what the homeowner owns, what is arranged on paper, but I want you to feel the shape of it, because what this contract is doing is something I do in lean work every day. It is shifting the weight off of memory, off of personality, and onto design standards. The turning point for me as a lean strategist standing inside this creative work is this: simple is not the same as clear. A one-page, cute agreement might feel friendly, but it is often too thin for the real work. A quick verbal, yeah, we'll handle that, might feel flexible, but it hides 90 minutes of unpaid labor and 3 extra mails from emailing the client back and forth. This contract is not short. It's solid. It names inclusions, exclusions, light assembly, styling, coordination. It names exclusions, electrical, painting, construction, anything that needs a license trades. That is not rigidity. That is mercy. It protects the designer from becoming the unofficial general contractor for free. It protects the client from assuming something is covered and then feeling blindsided later. The same is true with the 72-hour approval window. You could keep things vague. Just get back to us when you can. But that vagueness shows up eventually as a reveal that slides into the next month, as a schedule that never quite settles, as a low-grade resentment from a designer or a client who feels like they are always on or being taken advantage of. for decisions that never arrive. So instead, the contract says, if you need more time, you can take it. But we are going to be honest about what that does to the timeline. That is a lean move. It takes something that used to live in nervous jokes, side comments, under the breath comments, and moves it into the design of the work itself. How I see it now inside the studio. Standing in this with my fiance, what I see now is different. I do not look at a delayed project and immediately think people are just bad at responding. I ask, where did we make it too easy for things to get blurry? Where did we ask the client to hold a rule that should have been written down? Where did we depend on her memory instead of a visible system? The contract, as written, starts to answer those questions, but it is honest in a way that a lot of creatives are afraid to be. It respects the work enough to give it a structure that can actually hold it. So let's pull this out of the project for a second. If you run a small business, especially a creative one, I want you to ask yourself, is the confusion you keep running into really about discipline, or is it about design? Where in your work are you still improvising around things that should be clear by now? Where have you chosen to keep it simple over make it clear? Maybe it is your contracts. Do they spell out what is included and what is excluded? What happens if the project pauses? Or are you trusting that everyone basically understands? Maybe it is your approvals. Do you have a regular rule for how long a decision can sit before it moves the timeline? Or are you holding your breath and hoping people respond? Maybe it is your role in your own studio. Are you still trying to carry everything in your head, or are you letting the systems you design carry some of that weight for you? The project is not just a job. It is a marker. It is one of the first times the contract caught up to the reality of the work. It is one of the first times my lean brain and my fiance's design genius showed up together on the page, protecting her energy, protecting the client's experience, protecting the project itself. And that is the transition I am interested in now. I am not interested in just helping my fiance get through another beautiful, but sometimes draining project. I want us to build a business where the structure honors the work, where the contract is not an afterthought, but a design artifact, where timelines are not wishful thinking, but honest conversation, where we stop calling everything a people problem and start asking better questions about the shape of the work. So if you keep seeing the same breaking point in your projects, the same spot where things fall apart, do not just push harder. Look at the shape of the thing. Look at the contract. Look at the approvals. Look at who is carrying what. And then ask, what would it look like to design this clean in my world? I'm Milton Flournoy, and this is The Real Place. And this, the project, is one small example of what happens when lean, design, and real life collide.